Another group of comics that I'm going to try to chat about, maybe more quickly than the last one. You might say that a bunch of these, I think this will be the last comic book thoughts I'll do in this roundup. They're mostly indie or indie feeling, and maybe on the grittier side or more depressing side. There was Black Mask, another Black Mask #1, X'd. I don't know if #2 ever came out. My shop just doesn't seem to get all of these. At one point I told them to put all Black Masks on my pull list. Just give me any Black Masks comics. And that didn't work out. I think I might have specifically asked them to get me X'd and put that on my pull list. I'm not sure. I've definitely done that with some of the others, but haven't seen them come through my comic book shop anyway. I liked X'd. I didn't feel like it was the most original comic in the world. It did have a nice gritty feeling and sort of an interesting jaundiced view of humanity, let's say. But the basic plot was people who can go inside your brain and steal information or remove memories, or maybe both, and then things go wrong and people get trapped inside of brains and stuff. And that was all pretty cool. And there's kind of some violent social subtext of, corporate cheating and corporate evil going on. It's been a while since I've read this, so it's not all that clear in my mind. I liked it, but I didn't love it, but I'm interested to see where it will go. So I'm hoping I will find further issues. The Fade Out I don't think I've talked about this in one of my videos. I think I've just chatted with other people about it. The Fade Out kind of ended in a fade out, so I guess you can't blame them. The story just faded a bit. We get our answer to the mystery basically by talking to someone in a bar who then explains everything about what really happened. It's not really discovered by our hero. We do get kind of our hero, the screenplay writer, already had a pretty bleak, darker view of reality, and now he just has a bleaker, darker view of reality, which is the classic film noir thing, I guess. So we end with him having trouble living with himself and living with the world he's in, but somehow keep going, maybe by just diving deeper into alcoholism and such. I loved the process of reading The Fade Out. It was one of my favorite comic books every month, and there was just something pleasurable about getting back into it and taking its seemingly slow exploration of its characters and world. I was not wowed by this ending, but now that some time has passed, I'm not disappointed with it. I still highly recommend it to people who want something, completely different from what comics normally do. But still familiar in terms of mainstream literature or fiction, a hard-boiled fiction about the decadence of Hollywood and stuff. There's a whole niche there in the world of novels, I think, that this partakes in, but in a way that is different because it's a comic book, and has such awesome artwork by Sean Phillips, and the colorist, who they really should credit on the cover because she is great. Elizabeth Breitweiser adds a huge amount to this series. I've always appreciated that we get a cast of characters at the beginning, because this is a monthly comic, or sometimes appears less than monthly, and it's good to just kind of have a little help in picking up back in it. It's also has been fun to read the text stuffs, and this is a very memorable text piece at the back talking about all the drug experiences of Cary Grant. I want a comic book about Cary Grant and his experiences with LSD and his other adventures. There's an idea. Plutona, I thought this was the wrapping up of Plutona. I thought it was a 4-issue series. I guess it's a 5-issue series. It does say at the end of this issue, to be concluded. I'd say with issue 4, I finally have started getting into it more. It's the stuff that Jeff Lemire, the writer, or maybe Emmy Lennox and Jeff Lemire are the storytellers together. They say story by Emmy Lennox and Jeff Lemire, script by Jeff Lemire, art by Emmy Lennox. I really like Emmy Lennox's art. I hope to see more stuff by her. The coloring was really good. Who did the coloring? Was it Jordi Belair, of course. But I feel like things start to pay off here. So I think that this issue and probably the next issue, the final issue, will be what makes this worthwhile. And then I would, assuming next issue is as good as this one, I will probably be telling people, yes, I do recommend this in trade. The teenage characters, or I don't know if they're middle school or like freshmen in high school or something. While they originally felt like a bunch of cliches from movies, their interactions, which have slowly progressed during 4 issues, their relationships between each other have become interesting, the way they're shifting and changing. And so yeah, I look forward greatly to how that will resolve. And it is a superhero book, but it's not like a gritty, violent adult book, but it's kind of the gritty side of childhood in a way. Really intense, and I suppose involving childhood, is the violent. And I know issue 2 is out, and I procrastinated on picking up issue 2. This was a painful issue to read, painfully brilliant. I need to remind myself to go get issue 2 and put this on my pull list if I'm brave enough. And the more beautiful colors. I think the colors must be Michael Garland. It's interesting, illustrated and co-created by Adam Gorham. They put Adam on the inside. They put Adam Gorham names first, and I think that's good. I think whoever is maybe the instigator of the idea, even if there are co-writers, maybe that person should be listed first, even if they're the artist, and the tradition is to list the writer first. The art is incredible. The color's incredible. It's a story with, as far as I can tell, no fantastical elements, just the life of an addict and a criminal after he gets out of jail, and his wife is an addict, and they've got a child, and that having the child along for the ride is what makes this truly painful. And it's called The Violent. We haven't had the violence yet. We've had a little bit of a threat of violence at the end, but we haven't had the violence yet. So this is going to be the kind of really gritty crime story from the point of the view of criminals that feels so far that it's going to be so realistic that we'll learn something and it will be hard to take. The Vision, in a way, is a gritty, realistic crime story with the totally unrealistic thing of this family of robots, family of androids, who have the power of intangibility, which is shown in a clever way on the cover. And these 2 kids are now persona non grata in their high school. No one wants to chat with them. At first, when I read the first issue of Vision, I thought, well, this really can't be interesting for more than 2 or 3 issues, really. But now I'm gripped, and we hear that it's going to go on for 12 issues, and I kind of wish there were 24. But 12 is probably a good number. But Tom King, the writer, does a wonderful job sort of playing on the variations of what you can do with what he's set up. With the mother having killed a supervillain and trying to cover it up, and all the stuff that leads to. Which it leads to a very dark place at the end of this issue in a way that I was not expecting. But once it came, it's like, that's perfect. Now I have to read more. And boy, is she in deep doo-doo. Boy, is she in deep poop. And boy, are all these characters fucked, screwed. So, assuming that, we've had 4 issues now, and actually, ironically, at issue 4 of The Omega Men by Tom King, I said this is going to become a brilliant masterpiece. I feel the same way now here at issue 4 of the Vision. I feel like these 12 issues can be a brilliant masterpiece in the history of comic book storytelling. But I was wrong on Omega Men. Things sort of got a little looser and hairy in the storytelling in Omega Men that we're now on issue 9. It's still a good series, but not nearly as good as I thought it would be around the time of issue 4. But I hope to be right on the Vision. And a lot should be said for the art, too, which is very different from your typical Marvel art, but very haunting, very good storytelling. Tom King is lucky to have such a great co-creator on the Vision. And hopefully Walta will be on every issue, that they won't have to do a fill-in or anything like that. Speaking of awesome art, this is a comic book written by Emma Rios, drawn by an artist I've never heard of, and I really should look for her work, Hui Lim. And it's called Mirror. I think it was originally going to be part of the 8 House universe, or maybe it's still officially part of the 8 House universe, but not part of the 8 House comic. And the art is just, it's so awesome, but the writing is so obscure. I have no idea. We're in some world of magic where animals can be given intelligence, and there's a character who can do that, but I have no idea what's going on. And it's very frustrating. It's sometimes you have no idea what's going on and you feel like you can go with it. This feels like you were supposed to know what's going on and you don't, and it's kind of a slap in the face. So I don't know if I'll pick up issue 2. Maybe issue 2 is already out. When I first read it, I just felt angry at it and thought, no way am I going to get any further issues. But every time I flip it back open, I love that artwork so much that I might be tempted. And it is only $2.99. So, I think that includes most of the comics I got this week. Except that I haven't gotten around to reading The Haunted Love yet. And I don't know if I will read it immediately or just read a little. It's lots of short stories from the 40s and 50s in there that are out of copyright. But so I may not read it in a linear fashion. I may just skip around in that. But so I feel kind of caught up now. I hope, probably on Wednesday pick up my new comics, read most or all of them by the weekend, and do a comic book thoughts video over the weekend. I can't decide whether I've been trying to split out the Batman comics, since there's always so many Batman comics, and talk about the Batman comics more in depth, spoil them and stuff, because those are the comics that a large number of people read. Actually, less people watch my Batman videos. That's not an issue for me. They're just the people who want to be in the conversation about Batman. So I don't really want to give up that Batman conversation, but I just don't know if I have time to produce all the videos. Because I'd like to do the videos when I'm not tired and when I have a little bit of time before I start doing the video to look through the comics and chat about them. But it feels like I'm either at work or I'm at home and I'm doing things with my wife and daughter, and the moments to myself are very few, or late at night when I'm very sleepy and have trouble getting my thoughts together. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe I'll go back to doing more videos in my car. That's something I've done in the past to avoid this problem of being interrupted too much. I hope you're all well and enjoying the comics you have. People who've watched a lot of these long comic book thoughts videos, I really appreciate it. If you haven't watched them all or not all the way through, that's totally fine too. Talk to you all later.